like the wolf in Pulp Fiction. He is known as the fixer. Whether it's as a life coach to you and me, whether it's a head basketball coach and leader of young men with the UC Davis Aggies, the one, the only, former Sacramento King, current amazing human being, reigning celebrity football pool champion.
That's right.
Jim Les. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. I definitely do not deserve that introduction. So
Trying to buddy
whatever you guys are drinking this morning, have some more.
It's good stuff.
Jason's been pounding water all morning.
Well,
man.
that's what you think
Getting
it is.
a little tipsy. That's Kettle One in the bottle.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we haven't talked to you since last Wednesday. That's your normal slot here. So not to put my head in the lion's mouth here figuratively, but that is a tough loss at Cal State Fullerton, a 1-point loss, 93-92. I think the obvious sports radio question is like, Coach, how does it feel? I'll ask this. Can you learn anything from those? Are there lessons out of that you can take despite the heartbreak of a loss like that?
Well, I think our biggest frustration is it's been a little bit of a blueprint where we have leads in the second half. And, I use the term built for success. And you got to be able to sustain the things that you were doing to get the lead in order to finish a game off. And, we have some relax to us once we get a lead. And it's come back to bite us because momentum is a fickle thing. And if you intentionally lose that momentum because you relax, it's really hard to get it back. And that's kind of what we're dealing with. And, I've said this before, we only have 2 seniors, so we have a lot of young guys that are playing significant minutes and they're in significant roles. So part of it's a learning process, but part of it's a frustration that we haven't been able to overcome this because, the woulda, coulda, shoulda is, well, you look back at the number of games we've led in our league in the second half and haven't been able to close. We all have to take a look, coaches and players, on how we can find a way to move forward and conquer that problem. So I will let you in. We did do an interesting team. So you're always searching, whether you're running a business or you're running a team or running a family.
Yeah.
How do you kind of reset? And I felt like coming off this trip, even though we went 1-1, we needed a reset. So we asked guys to write down just some things that they wanted to, whether it's get off their chest or things that they wanted to conquer here in the last 3-4 weeks of the season. And kind of, hey, this is holding me back. Let's write it down on a piece of paper. So what we did yesterday is everybody wrote those things down and we read them in front of the team individually. And we did have the UC Davis Fire Department come. This is an old Phil Jackson. And so we had a big container and we lit it on fire and everybody dropped in their piece of paper after they read it, kind of to reset the clock here as we come down the stretch.
Interesting.
That's cool.
Was there a common thread of those notes that the players submitted that were read, like that you kind of repeatedly heard?
Well, I don't know if there was a common thread, but I do not envy the current athlete with social media, because you're on blast for everything, and everybody has access to you in terms of a direct message based on however you're running your social media. But I think sometimes the young people today put so much internal pressure on themselves, but there's also, I think, external pressure because of the social media factor that, man, they're just wearing that and they're tense. And I think a lot of it was, hey, I got to understand, I'm not going to be perfect. I tell our guys all the time, you're a perfectionist who's playing an imperfect game. and you have to let that go. You're not going to make them all. You're not going to be perfect. It's more how you deal with the imperfection and staying in the moment and leaving that mistake or that miss behind you so you can take the next step and be ready for the next play. And there was a lot of that, which was really encouraging. And then for me, it was, because we've had this before, I was feeling a high level of frustration with our team. And I think that was coming out in my communication. And that's something that I told them that can't happen. I've got to change that. I can't be frustrated. I can't have negative communication with them, especially in the heat of the battle. It's got to be positive and uplifting, especially when it's a young group trying to figure it out.
Coach Jim Les joining us. Last question. I was thinking about you last week, Coach, and I wanted to throw you a little hypothetical here. I think you'll understand at some point where I'm going. So, as you know, I have a 17-year-old son who likes to play basketball. He's a junior in high school. Next year, in this hypothetical situation, he'll be a senior on the varsity, and my God, he's already the presumptive number one pick in the NBA draft. It's like Cooper Flag, basically. And his dad, being a sports radio guy, says, you know what? I don't want you going to these, these basketball factories here. I want you to go to UC Davis and play for my friend Jim Les. And so he approaches you, Coach. He's the presumptive number one pick in the draft, but he's already got kind of an agent. There's NIL money from elsewhere to bring him to Davis. Nothing below board. But the understanding going into the season is that he's probably not going to play every minute of every game. They're always going to want to err on the side of his health or this, that, whatever. It's going to come with headaches, but you're getting the best player in the league, probably. And you're also getting a ton of attention to the program. You as a coach have an opportunity to bring in the individual that might raise the program, but also bring in the individual that is going to be a year-long headache. How do you make that decision?
Well, to me, it's always just honest dialogue. Mm-hmm. And, we like when we sit in front of a young player or a young family, and regardless of what their profile is, because there aren't too many guys that I sit in front of that don't think they're playing in the NBA and don't think they're the best thing since sliced bread. And that's part of what makes them good. But, we just talk about, hey, here's the cornerstones of our program is if you don't want to work, if you don't want to get after it, if you don't want to get better and be in the gym, and if you don't love the game, don't come here because you're not going to like it, because that's what we demand. And, we have a history of making guys better and developing guys and growing guys and taking guys maybe that are under-recruited or taking guys that are very, acclaimed and getting them better. But we do it the old-fashioned way. There's no shortcut to success. We roll up our sleeves and we work. So if you don't want to do that, don't come here.
Perfect.
And sometimes that upfront, honest communication is helpful. Plus, you can go back to it, because when someone's struggling and they're like, hey, coach, I'm tired and I don't really feel like it, or this is harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm like, well, remember we talked about this on the front end, and we told you this is what it was going to be like. You made the choice. We didn't disguise who we were. And you chose this because you knew ultimately this was the best for you. And now it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be just a straight ascent up the mountain. There's going to be peaks and valleys, and that's why you have us. We have a lot of experience. We've done this before. And you don't need me as a coach when everything's going good and the ball's going in the basket and you're playing great and everybody's telling you how great you are. You don't need me. When you need me is when you feel like, I don't know if I'm ever going to make one again.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling. That's when you need that person in your corner, in your ear, with maybe the knowledge and experience to guide you through some of the tough times.
That's a perfect answer. Yeah. That's Coach Jim Les. That's why we asked the questions. By the way,
home finale tomorrow.
Home finale tomorrow. It's senior night versus Hawaii. Final home game of the regular season. Get out there and support the Aggies. You can, of course, hear it right here on Sactown Sports. But, Jason, one of the few times I'm going to say, don't want you listening on Sactown Sports. I want you at the game itself, supporting Coach Les and his players. Coach, we appreciate you as always. We'll talk to you in a week.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great week.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. We're late for a break. When we